All right, so today we'll be covering IGL Success and how to be successful as an IGL. It's a very complicated subject. I may not cover all the points, and there might be people out there who cover it better than me. But this is just my thoughts on it, and so we'll just go through this real quick. Everyone should be able to IGL to an extent. This is a philosophy of mine personally that I always tell teams, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. But what I mean by this is that there's going to be cases where if you're an entry, for example, you're kind of if drones are gone or whatever, we're just talking like mid or late round or any situation where you're the first person in, you either see that there's a shield or utility, or if we're talking like Villa, for example, and you go through bathroom and you're face checking Astro and you see that Astro's clear, that's where you can tell your team, like you see an opening or you see utility, and you can kind of direct your team based on that information that you're getting because you're getting it firsthand, right? But another situation could be like if you're dead, for example. A lot of people check out after they die. I noticed, especially in T3 VODs that I do. But that's actually such a crucial time for your team because when you're dead, you're like essentially a drone, right? Like you can be on drones, flipping cams, seeing intel, and being able to pass that intel on to your players so that they can act upon that intel. Or if someone is already watching cams because there's multiple people dead, you could possibly be flipping through each of the operators that are still alive or the players that are still alive and seeing what they're seeing and dealing with, because sometimes players get into tunnel vision and they're not able to vocalize what they're dealing with or whatever. There's just so many different scenarios, and that's why I think everyone should be able to IGL to an extent, because there's always a situation where you may be able to take advantage of the intel that you see, right? And that way your team can act upon it. So openings, stuff like that. Next one would be some teams might utilize one IGL or multiple IGLs based on their style. So some guys can IGL it all, right? They'll give you the initial plan. They'll have the intel mid or they'll be able to adapt mid and late round and make calls. And so, they're keeping the team on track. There's some guys who can do it all, and you only need one IGL. There's other teams who, there's a guy who comes up with a good initial plan, but then when it's mid and late round, they're not so good at calling adaptions and stuff like that. And then there might be a secondary person on your team who that's their strong point, is like adapting and breaking things apart when they see it based on intel. So you may have one IGL, you may have two IGLs. It just depends on the team style and how it works out for you guys. So that's something that you would have to figure out on your own. Last one would be always think about how to move your team forward and how to make your team successful. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, but all this stuff is basically what to do with that. And so anyway, down here we have initial plan. What is the end game, as in where we're trying to plant? What do we need to do to get there? And then do all the players understand their jobs? Forward thinking, and this is a term that I like to use because of my military background, but always thinking about what is coming, what possibilities there are, how to react to said possibilities. So predicting enemy movements or positions, imagining utility placement based on intel and how you're going to deal with it, and then where to use your intel. So, obviously you have the intel on where, said shields are, bubbles are, banshees are, and you're imagining where that stuff is, and that goes kind of into your initial plan, is like, where do I need Ash to be? Where do I need Zofia to be in order to deal with this utility so that we can get to our end game and plant, right? Adaptions based on intel mid and late round, which we a little bit covered on above there, but obviously time is a big factor in that. Who and what is on the board, that's something that like. These two are obviously some of the most important things that are, I feel like, very simple to understand but hard to translate into actual gameplay, because you always have to be paying attention to time, and you always have to know who and what is on the board in terms of intel, in terms of C4, or sorry, utility like C4 shields, whatever. Current intel, that way you can act upon that stuff. It's a good thing to have your initial plan, but that's where the mid and late round adaptions come into play, because either people have died, you've lost specific utility you need. Like, so you have to always be able to adapt based on that stuff, and that's where current intel comes into play. And then openings. There's been several times where I've watched VODs where there's a clear opening, and because they're lacking current intel, they never capitalize on the openings that are available at the time, and they get stalled out, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Keeping the team on track, so recognizing if the team is stalled. This is more attack based. Knowing when to change gears, and what I mean by this is also a little bit more towards the attack side, but it can also be considered defense as well. But changing gears in terms of sometimes you're going to be too aggressive, your team is too aggressive, and you're getting punished for it, so maybe you need to tone it down, be a little bit more structured. There's times where your team is going to be too passive, and you need to bring up the heat a little bit and start being a little bit more aggressive and getting picks because maybe you're just playing so passive that they're just swinging everything and punishing you for it. And then the next thing would be controlling the team, but also letting them play free. So I'm not a big fan of dictator IGLs. I'm more of a fan of like you have your plan, everybody knows what the plan is, like understands their jobs, and you let them play to their ability, right? You got to trust your team. But there has to be some form of structure because there's always cases where, for example, you get a player who's feeling real hot at the time. They get, let's use an entry player because, I mean, that's going to be the most common issue that we see is they're feeling really hot. They get 2 picks, and maybe they get a little ahead of themselves or ahead of the team, and because they're feeling good and they're winning these gunfights, and that's where there's times where you get maybe those 2 picks early on, you put that leash on them real quick and be like, yo, let's drone, let's reset, let's find out some intel, and then we'll push forward again, right? So that's what I mean by controlling the team, is that there's going to be cases where you have players who are feeling real good and they get some picks, and then they go throw their life away because they get ahead of the team or ahead of themselves. So we'll just go into the first clip. So this is 6-on-6, which I enjoy to watch. You can learn some things. Otherwise, it's a lot of just chatting. But there's a couple clips that I'm going to be, 3 clips specifically that we'll be going over in this one. This one's real short.
Just do stuff on the fly and change plans mid-plan, which other teams couldn't. And I also think that a lot of gunfights meta fit us pretty well back at that time. You didn't.
All right, so in this, and I'll put the links all below as usual. That way, if you want to watch this stuff on your own, you can. But they're basically talking about why G2 was so powerful, back in I think 2017 to 2019, somewhere in there. And he's talking about one of their biggest strengths is being adaptive at mid and late round, which we can see that we've got right here, adaptions mid and late round. That's a very important thing, and that's something that I see a lot of teams suffer from, even in the VOD reviews that we've been doing of pro teams. They don't adapt too well in that mid and late round. So 41-26 would be the next one.
If you look at the team that you played with for 4 years, some levels of the professionality that you have in between the players kind of becomes more friendships, and you become too common with each other, if you understand me. You become too close, and you kind of erase the lines a little bit between what is the friendship outside of the game and the professional levels you need to have in game. They kind of become blurry, and you don't know what you need to do. So with a new team, I think it's going to take a lot longer time for something like that to happen. But I also think that the longer the game has been around, the more professional players will become overall. So I think it will be an easier time for in-game leaders now than it was back then to keep control of their teams.
Yeah.
All right, so this specifically, I picked this because obviously, it does have, he's talking about being in IGL and stuff like that, but if anybody hasn't watched, I put out a team success video, and one of the things I talked about in there was professionalism and respect, right? A lot of people probably watched that video and thought, maybe this guy's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then you see, we're watching this, and Fabian, one of the best IGLs in the game, at the time in his height, and I'm sure he's still a good IGL. It's just, the meta's changed. But he's talking exactly about that point, is that when you're in the game, you have to be professional with your players and your IGL, and you have to be respectful, right? And in order to do that, like, that's how your team will be successful, right? Because you're not shooting the shit all the time. You're not joking around all the time. Like, when you're in scrims and you're there to learn, then you're there to learn and you're there to be professional. There's no reason why you would spend 20 plus hours a week playing this game as just like a hobby, right? I mean, that would be a very excessive hobby. So if you're playing comp and you want to be CL, PL, or any of the top tier, then you have to find a way to be professional and respectful. And I think that's something that a lot of teams suffer with, and so that's why I wanted to show this clip, because it's not just me who thinks that way. Clearly, some of the best players in this game also think that way, right? So I just want to make sure I showed that so that everybody kind of understands that point. And I actually made that video prior to watching this, so it was just like a added benefit of watching this. All right, and then the next one.
This one's gonna get clipped and go on Reddit, but like, I genuinely feel like most pro teams don't actually have a real leader. They don't.
No,
they don't
correct.
have a real in-game leader. They call someone an in-game leader, and like between rounds he says, "Okay, we're taking Downing this round," and that's it.
Yeah.
But like, other than that, it's not actual leadership. It isn't. Like, you can see them, like the players don't have like the same respect for that guy. Like, they don't have the same respect for him. They don't buy into the system of like how the team plays and everything like that. Like, I know for a fact, like, my team, like, we believe like specifically in how our team plays, and like everyone buys into it. Like, there's things that we absolutely preach and everyone like buys into it and respects it and abides by it. But like, there's other teams that it's literally they just play the game and like they run their strats and that's it. It's not as detailed as that. And like, I do think that's something that's always set our two teams apart from like a lot of the other teams, is because we have that structure. Like, everyone's on the same page a lot more just because of it.
All right, so in that clip, and obviously, Canadian right up there with Fabian, one of the best IGLs in the game. He's talking about what we just talked about over here is initial plan. Like, in order to be an IGL, you have to be able to do all of these things, right? That's why we have this list. There's so many things you have to keep account of where your players are. You have to, think about all the possibilities. You might as well just think of yourself as like a little like sonar radar, right? You're taking in all the information and you're making decisions for everyone based on that information. And especially newer IGLs, or I see a lot of people, and that's why I specifically talked about this above, was that they come up with the initial plan, and then once they're in the round, they just expect, and I think it's because they don't personally know how to lead when the action starts, and they just expect people to know what to do without any help. And so these clips that we're going to be going through are like high level players, and they're I would say micromanaging to an extent, but they're not like micromanaging their players so much to where they can't do anything on their own, right? But especially when you're talking about younger teams or newer teams, it's going to be very important that you learn how to IGL mid and late round and make those adaptations, and that's going to make your team just so much more. There's no other way to put it besides better, right? It's just going to make your team more fluid, better. You guys will understand problem solving better the more that you practice this. So having an initial plan is good, but being able to adapt mid and late round based on what's happening, like we talked about, time, what's on the board, current intel, openings, that's what's going to make your team successful. Initial plans are good, but as soon as you hit your first death, or whatever, misuse of utility, like that, it's going to affect you, but you shouldn't just have the mindset of like, when these things happen, we're going to lose a round at that point, right? So you always have to be able to adapt and be thinking forward. That way you know how to deal with those issues. So that's the 3 clips that I wanted to show from this. Again, I'll put all the links below so that way you can watch this stuff yourself. But all right, so next one. This one is what I was talking about, forward thinking. It's not necessarily IGLing, but I thought it was very interesting because he's telling you exactly all the possibilities going through his head and predicting where the enemies are going to be. So individually, each player should be able to do this. And, we all wish we were as smart as Pengu in terms of game sense. But when you're the IGL, you're essentially doing this for all 5 players, right? So that's why this is important to watch.
Might swing this. We steal the kill, get the refrag. We're holding Freezer, he's dead, Sophia. And now we're in a strong position. Crossfire with Rook. We're gonna push up a little bit further. We're gonna hold the hallway by default. We can play Sound on Freezer, hopefully. Now I don't know where the last guy is. We're gonna move in, play more tight with this Rook. Play safe positions. I have the hallway, he has to rotate, hopefully. And now we just play Sound. We have no info. The Kucha cams with MVCs, we see Freezer, that's good, and we see nothing else. So we know Freezer's clear at all times. He can only come there or there. He's backside most likely. He's not backside at all. Rook kind of died, extended. I'm gonna wait for Sound, and I'm gonna swing. With crouch not standing, that's unlucky. I'll sit right here tucked in. We can swing now. He has to reload. We know where he is, so we just have to take the gunfight. He has to be here or here before he steps left side. He has to reload, meaning that he's all the way crouched behind the cover. He's not gonna reload in the open. If he did, wouldn't matter. We had a 1 EM anyway, so see your question.
Alright, so one of the big things in this round specifically, besides the fact that he predicted everything that was going to happen, was you see right here. Let's go back. Alright, so he was talking about he's expecting this guy to be coming from bunker or blue, whatever you want to call it. Then we see the Rook die here, and immediately he adapts to that piece of information, right?
Rook kind of died, extended. I'm gonna wait for Sound, and I'm gonna swing.
Okay.
With crouch not standing.
So you see he's kind of putting pressure on him. That way it's not just a free take and he doesn't just push for free, but he's not being over aggressive with the way he's doing it. And you also notice that he repositions right away. That's a common thing that I see, is that people will take a gunfight or a drone will see them and then they just sit in the same spot. Whenever you watch these pros or, YouTube people, whoever you watch, whether it's montages or actual like full game VODs, you'll notice that like pro players or high level players are always moving. They never, and that's one of the biggest things with like gold players or low plat players, is they'll get spotted by something or they take a gunfight and then they'll just hold an angle and then they just get pre-fired and lose. So you see that he's creating pressure and mental games on this other guy. It's 1v1 and he's repositioning himself, being unpredictable.
I'll sit right here tucked in. We can swing now. He has just to reload. We know where he...
Alright, so that was the first clip. So next one we'll be looking at is this one. Alright, so this one will be the what we're covering here in terms of initial plan. It's not the whole round, but we're just watching the we're just going to be listening to how he's directing the team and making sure that everybody knows the initial plan and knows what their jobs are going to be.
Honestly, if you can get Visa and statue control, you can plant lobby. Like, what you do? Listen, what you do? I'm gonna... Yeah, but we need to have, like... I think we need to... Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. One guy put in Visa holding statue. I can rappel balcony, and then we just walk in lobby and plant. It should be that free.
Someone my Visa.
So we need 2 lobby, 1 Visa, and I'm gonna rappel balcony.
I go Visa.
Alright, let's go 2 Visa, 2 main door, and I rappel balcony. Diffuser gotta go lobby door.
Yeah. Draw me in Visa.
I can't.
Alright, so that's all we're going to watch of this clip, because round goes sideways, stuff happens, but I thought that the initial plan was good, the way that he disseminated the information, told everybody like what their jobs were, and that way everybody knows how to act upon that information. And then once you get in a mid round, late round, based on intel, stuff like that, that's when obviously there's going to be those adaptions. But there's no confusion here about what the take is, who is doing what, all that good stuff. So as an IGL, or like when you're IGLing, this is the type of stuff that you have to keep in mind is that everybody needs to know what their job is so that way your team can be successful. You can't half-ass IGLing and be like, yo, let's do this take, and then that's it, right? Especially with the younger teams, or if you're bringing a new player into a team. Like, I've done so many tryouts for teams, and I'll tell you that one of the worst things at being a tryout is that all they seem to care about is your mechanical skills, right? They never give you information to be successful and mold well with the team, right? They just like want you to come in there and be a gunner. But if you're looking for like a sustainable team who's going to last long term, then you need to make sure that they like mesh well with your plan of action, with your style that your team plays, like all this stuff. It's not just about mechanical skills. So giving them the information that they need in order to be successful and make your team successful is also a very important part, especially during tryouts. Next one is going to be, I tuned into this guy's stream the other day and saw this. I thought it was pretty good. I think he's a challenge. Yeah, he is a challenger player, and I believe he used to play for Wichita Wolves. I'm not sure, but so we're just gonna go through the whole round of this.
I think we do the same
What
thing.
they did was terrible anyways. Ayana, if they're gonna like reinforce this statue wall, I mean not the statue wall, the AV wall, and then mute it, nade over, I'm gonna hub onto the wall, okay?
Yeah, we gotta get that bar presence and get control of that before we push red
Ash,
forward.
follow up my cam, watching going long haul, and Zofia, can you go 90?
Yeah, 90 window.
I got it.
Whoops.
Okay,
I got
Jackal's
it.
got
So
90,
you
Jackal's
get
got 90.
So this is FPLC. Obviously, most likely, maybe these players know each other through like being on other teams and stuff, but most likely, they're not on comp teams together because FPLC is just kind of randomized most part. But he's telling these players exactly what they need to be doing. He's directing them based on their operator and where they need to go. He's saying like, we'll shoot holes over this wall and you need to throw a nade. Like
I want to make sure
everybody
that
is
he's on point with Danny.
understands what their plan of action is right now.
You got a barb on ping. They dead reinforce the wall. It's not muted though, I can hub on it. I'm droning up your short, I'm gonna hub onto that wall as soon as I can. Short's clear. Main's clear. Let me hub onto these walls, guys. There's no one long haul. Watch 90. Nobody's in bar. Take bar.
So, and another thing to watch and take into account here is like number one, he's droning pretty efficiently, right? I see a lot of people over droning. They check every single corner, and it's just like takes forever to get a drone through. He is the way he's positioning his drone and driving his drone, he's seeing all the information that he needs to see, and he's also checking like rat corners efficiently in a fast pace without having to like what we're calling over droning, and like it's just too much. Anyway, so he's droning efficiently, but this is where that adaptions come into play. Is they had their plan of how they were going to deal with this wall and all that stuff. Then they notice that, or he notices that it's not muted, and he notices that no one's playing over here. So immediately he's making the adaption and telling his team to take this territory and like so that they're not wasting time. Think about how much further ahead they are by taking this territory so quickly right now.
Nobody's 90. They gave us all this.
Close tucked on this wall.
90, 90, 90.
Swinging.
Push 90, push 90. Kill that guy. It's a free bit. Idiot. Oh my god, you're so old. What are you?
All right, and that was a good play. And if you think about the time, right? Whoa. How did that happen? Anyway, so if you think about the time, all right, well, whatever. I feel like dealing with that right now. So if you think about the time, 2 minutes 14 seconds, they've already have the whole like all control of basically the south side of the building at this point, and they got a free pick off of it, the Mozzie, and there's 2 minutes 14 seconds left. So there's so much time for them to work with, so much time for them to make a plan of action moving forward in this next phase of the attack.
They got this full on Mozzie.
We don't even need to hub on it.
I'm droning. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It might be
Alright,
C4 below. It might be C4 below.
Heard. I'll check. One second.
No, just
Another thing, real quick, in the comms video that I talked about, and this is interesting to see it because again, this is FPLC. It's not a. These guys aren't actually like on a comp team together, at least most of them, as far as I know. And someone calls that there might be a C4 or someone playing a C4 below, and someone automatically, and this is one of the things I covered in that comms video, is acknowledgement. Someone said heard. That means they acknowledged that that call was made, and now they're gonna. And he just said like, I'm gonna check down there. I have a drone down there. Blah blah blah. Whatever it is, and he acknowledged that call.
make sure you guys are standing on things when you're on cams.
There's nobody in mud side.
Trophy.
I have a preset 90. I mean, not 90. It's watching red come up.
Just playing trophy.
I have a cam red.
No C4 presence underneath, boys. We're good on C4s.
Okay.
All right, and time is still looking very good.
I'm watching the main flank.
Okay.
Yeah, one's master. One's on master bed.
One's deer, one's in split. One coming up blue, Ella.
Oh shit. Yeah, can we go with the astral window possibly?
Yep, going right now.
All right, so at this point, he sees that they're playing Astro heavily, can get an angle on that from the window, so he's making a mid-round adaptation, moving a body over there so that they can create a pinch on the site, and because I assume they're trying to plant deer at this point.
I'm not watching main flank anymore.
Going forward window in a second.
I'm joining out astro and we can probably
Yeah,
plant. Whoa.
Statue.
He's getting ghetto.
Bottom red.
Bottom red?
Yeah, he's coming right now. That's him living, flanking. Dead.
For me.
All right,
I'm
that was a
joining.
good call.
Go astro window.
Astro window?
Yeah. Zofia, can you get on cam, see what's up? We might be able to hit.
Smoke's tagged on the road.
We can probably play
We have a
trophy
main-
door. We can probably play trophy door if it's clear. We need a drone, guys. I have no.
All right, so now they're planning to plant trophy door, another adaptation.
One's close trophy door. Trophy door is 3, but there's a guy behind here.
I
Okay,
can smoke.
let's get that guy
master,
deer
guys.
then.
Master was trophy.
Nobody's trophy. He's back in trophy
Let's
now.
go. Let's kill this guy trophy. Master down. Let's
stand
plant.
up.
I'm planning.
All right, and then we switch back over.
Ah! They can't hold us. It's unbeatable.
Good shit, boy.
Then we see the adaptation over to trophy based on the intel that's being given. They win the round, win the game. Then you like the hype. So that was a little clip, full clip of a full round. I thought he did a pretty good job of directing the team, making sure the team was on track. And if you looked at the time, like the fact that they saw those openings in terms of like the free territory, getting that pick on the Mozzie, like it was obviously slow. Like he called, and I'm sure if this was like his actual comp team, and he called for someone to go to Astro window, they would have been over there real quick. It was a little slow on that rotate. Nobody really did it, and it was way, if they did, it was way late. But still, I thought he did a good job of directing the team, especially since this isn't their comp team, and it's kind of like almost like solo queuing. Anyway, so moving on for that one. But he did a lot of this stuff that we covered here. Next thing would be this one.
We can hit a direct and just nade the guy in blue. Get that your ADSs, and I'll go blue window late. Wanna do
We're
that?
eating up on the direct early.
We need a cam underneath for C4.
I can get one.
I have one in memo.
Oh, you have one already? Okay.
I'll get one kitchen.
All right, so they're talking about, and this is a little bit higher level. This is pro league players, but this is a FPL game, and they may not need to break it down as in as small of details as other teams or other players, whatever. But they're of an understanding of what the plan is, and then you can hear them talking about, because they're doing a direct take into master, they need drones below, that way they know about C4s and stuff. So everybody's tracking this type of play and what needs to be done.
We have 2 drones for C4s.
And they got 2 drones down there to watch for
on the
C4.
other side.
Alright, I have a drone in kitchen. I have a top red cam.
Paul, I'm gonna open board window late. You maybe lurked at.
Yeah, I could probably
Open blue window. Yeah, last time this guy was flying out a bathroom window.
I can open blue
Dirty
window.
master.
I can open blue window. Hold on.
Sludge in the window.
Alright, master in the closet. We're both clear.
Got the blue cam already.
Alright, I'm coming up.
I could watch safe door while we. Watch safe door. Hold on, let me just go get my
I
drone.
know
real
how to
quick.
safe door.
Alright, they have 2 ADSs for the shield. One close, one far. And they have one eye. Wait.
For what shield? The blue shield?
All right, so now they're talking about utility that's going on that they see and what they're gonna need to deal with that utility.
For the blue shield.
Yeah, I'm
Double
coming.
EMP.
I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming to EMP the wall. I'm coming to EMP. You ready?
Yeah, just make sure you double it because you're gonna
Yep.
retake.
Yep. Hit it. Shoot him on.
Checking the cams. Yo, Jaeger's below right now. Shooting. He's on ping.
He's impacting.
Jaeger's in China.
You want
He's
me
in
in-
China too.
Wait, 2 in China?
C4. Yeah.
Huh?
No, in kitchen, middle kitchen. You hit her, you hit her.
Impact.
All right, and you can think that that play was actually pretty smart because they're saying 2 were there, and just by doing that creates a pressure on the defenders down there, so they may leave that area or they're going to play a much more passive, whatever. He doesn't have to stick it, and that's what he does here. Is he just went down there,
Coming back up.
created some
Can't let that
pressure,
stature.
scared him,
Yo,
moved on.
Can we get ADS clear? Can we get ADS clear for blue guys?
And now we're directing and shifting our attention to the next phase, which is clearing out Astro and Blue.
Let's clear some ADSs. Yeah, clear these ADSs.
That's all my end.
Yeah,
Oh, my end. Jaeger.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
yeah, burn the Wamais.
I'm out of flashes.
Yeah, I'm Thatchering. I'm Thatchering. I Thatchering. Nade.
Put his left side on ping. Lucy.
And see how we're directing, like, utilizing utility together. We burned ADS and Wamai, threw a EMP out there just to deal with anything else extra, and we're timing the nade in order to get rid of this shield here.
One dead deer.
Oh, he just threw that.
One was boar.
I killed one
Lucy
deer.
was left side statue.
That's happening.
Let's go. Just chill. Can we reset real quick?
I'm gonna hit Borley.
Yeah, hit board.
Here.
Just chill. Yeah, just chill.
Keep on there.
Jaeger blue. He's in the corner. Dead.
Nice.
Last one was top red.
Going in. Me and Camden have blue.
See how he shares that information is he's going in, and now 2 of them have control of Astro or Blue, and that way the other team or the other players can start doing their plant or whatever they need to do.
Coming in.
He's top red landing.
Oh, I fell.
That's unfortunate,
I'm planning boar.
You can
but
come red, Kev.
Yeah, I'm
only
about to.
4, so
He's
who
going board.
cares?
Going board.
Hurt. Yeah, and more.
Good shot.
I fell by accident, but we take those.
That cam was so hard to see that way.
With that, your bro direct is so easy.
All right, so that was a good round. I thought next one will be this one's a shorter one. So this one's about what we were talking about after death, right? So a lot of people who die, they check out after death and they stop providing for their team. So this one's going to be, which I thought was really good, and that's why I wanted to add this in here.
Swung me, May.
Smoke dead.
Whiffed. Main stairs.
I'm putting on the wall.
Main stairs. Care. Hold that, Paul.
All right, so just like we talked about, if you're dead, you can either be flipping drones, or if there's multiple people, maybe the Nomad here is already flipping drones, so he's flipping the players and seeing what information that he can pass on and direct based off of that information.
2 of you are looking at the same thing. Kenzie, you can
That's important to say. 2 people are looking at the same direction.
look at study.
I have steady cam.
Okay, hold top red maybe. Another one books. Nice shots, Paul. Last one should be top red. He's got one flanker. Vigil static, mid red. Nice.
That's good.
All right, so even though he was dead, think about how much information he just provided there. And that's, again, like we're talking about. When people are in gunfights, they may not be as quick to pass out information, or they're just tunnel vision. They can't pass out information, whatever it is. And then we have one more clip, which is from the Pengu game. And it is 21:52. All right, so this one's more of a mid-late round stuff right here.
Close window. It's a warden shotgun. He's dead. Nice. Watch out, connect this and go shield or something. And now we go lobby,
All right, so based on the information that they have and what's happened in the round already, now he's saying, all right, let's take lobby.
Yeah, just leave top floor. I have it.
He's going to control
no
top
one
floor.
meeting. Or just go lobby here. No one CO. One long yellow. So only one guy side. Jaeger, drop the hash. No one side. We go side.
Peeking spiral right side.
I have spiral bottom. Spiral dead. Let's go with yellow stairs.
Lobby.
Lobby?
Shit, we have time. Where is it?
Alpha.
Shit.
I'm turning down yellow here. I'm looking for him, Zach. Piano, in piano.
All right, and that's something else that I've talked about many times is that when you're in these positions, there's phases to attack, or when you're in these positions, they have time, they have the ability to drone, and I see a lot of teams who are in this position and they just go guns blazing, and they either win the round or they lose the round, and it's not really setting them up for success. And I think they're taking things, or they're giving things too much up for chance, right? By playing that way, it's not consistent. So you might win one round, you might lose one round, but they recognize like, okay, it's 2v1. We have a lot of time. He took the opportunity to drone and get some intel, and now they're acting upon that intel, right? They didn't just rush it. They didn't go do anything crazy and throw their numbers away. They took that time.
Okay.
Hey, go lobby door. Oh, you can't.
Alright, we got
Can you go outside? Go outside.
Okay, listen, Zach, you have a drone in lobby, you can drone him.
So Maestro come and ping.
You wanna...
He's in piano still. Nice.
Yeah, push with the drone. Give me the drone. I have the
And again, taking the time to drone so that they can be successful here.
Yeah, separa. Piano? Oh, you can plant.
Close to Alpha door.
Yeah, just commit. Nice. Messy but good.
Well done.
Yeah, we're a little bit slow on like, I don't know, just like realizing, like when I call the guy yellow stairs top floor, and they start calling spiral, we're like, guys, just rush side. We were so slow to like adjusting that the guy from yellow, who's a 1 speed, was in lobby. So like, it just doesn't click for us.
All right, and I thought that was an important point. So he saw an opening. He called to the team like, let's do this. And obviously they were slow in doing it. They still ended up being successful. But this is what we were talking about, like mid and late round adaptions and seeing your openings and how you can act upon them. So he saw, like, based on the intel that they gave, one was spiral, one was yellow. He understood that intel, and he knows, okay, no one is sight. Let's just take sight, right? Don't need to take the gunfights. Let's see. This is an opening. Let's take advantage of it. Obviously, they were, like he said, a little bit slow in taking advantage of it. But this is just like what I'm talking about here. And this is the type of stuff that you have to look for while you're in round and be thinking about these things while you're in round, especially if you're the IGL. But in reality, all players should be thinking about this, because the smarter that everyone is on the team, then the more chance of success you're going to have, because that means that everybody's making good decisions, everybody's got good map knowledge. Like, there's so many things, right? But especially for IGLs, like, you can't just that's the other thing, is, which I don't know if I talked about it before, is like, doing VOD reviews, like, I've seen a lot of people who are IGLs because maybe they're the best at decision making on the team, right? It doesn't mean that they're necessarily the smartest player in terms of angles, in terms of positioning, in terms of all this stuff, right? But they're just the best at decision making for their individual selves. They make smart plays, but only individually. And for some reason, they get put in the position of being an IGL based off of that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be a good IGL, because a good IGL is like multitasking, right? You have to be able to take in all the information that everyone is feeding you and then direct 5 people in order to be successful at your end game, right? So if you're an IGL and you find that you are that type of person who is maybe the smartest person on the team in terms of decision making, then this is all stuff that you need to work on. Otherwise, if you're just an IGL in general, or you're looking to be an IGL, this is all stuff that you should always be taking into account, should be going through your head. And I guess the last thing I just want to touch on is I picked all this different stuff so that you can see, especially this guy, that there are talented players at all levels, and there's people who think about this stuff at all levels, right? And that's the type of mentality you have to start having in order to be successful. That's how all of these people got there, and you can see by watching these clips and listening to what they're saying that they're all thinking about that type of stuff. They all have a pretty decent mentality, like, you know what I mean? And even including this guy who's not pro league, he's challenger. But like I said, I was pretty impressed while I watched this. So I thought it would be good to add like different level or calibers of player, different levels of player, whatever you want to talk about. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope this helps out some people. Maybe there's some things you already do and already know, and maybe there's some things that you never thought about or don't do. So thank you for your time. Enjoy your day.